Hello and welcome to the Hoop Collective podcast. We talk about the NBA, which we're doing on Saturday afternoon. Ben McMahon, where are we right now?
We are at my home away from home in Bricktown, Oklahoma City. The glorious Tipsy Tiki, the graciously hosted by Big Rich Tipsy Tiki right here on the canal. There might be a little championship parade swimming with the crocodiles down this thing, but I don't know. There might be one in Indy the way game one went. Can I just say, though, howdy, partners?
Yeah, I just wanted you to say where we were, but you took off. Joining us here in Oklahoma City, Tim Bontemps.
Hello, everybody, and thanks to Rich. And it's a very warm day here in Oklahoma City.
It's not that warm. I've seen it.
I mean, it's pretty warm, but we got some nice shade here, and there's some heat on the Thunder after game one. Should be a interesting game, too.
Good job. He's pretty good.
Professional broadcaster.
There's definitely a subdued nature here in Oklahoma City after the way game one went. It's been a day and a half and things haven't gotten better. You know, the thing about it is that even though the Thunder won 68 games and, pretty much blitzed their way through the West, a little bit of trouble with Denver, this team hasn't yet achieved the highest goal, and there is still some trepidation. And I would say the trepidation is palpable in the city because they're not used to seeing their team blow leads like that. They're not used to seeing things go wrong for this team. They did have a similar thing happen to them in game one against Denver. And so that's what they're falling back on because McMahon in game two, you were here for that. They won by like 35.
Yeah, and very similar. Blew a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter. It was 12 in that case, 15 against the Pacers. Had the lead right up until the last few seconds. Aaron Gordon hit the three-point game winner with 2.8, obviously 0.3 of a second for Haliburton. But this, I always say one of the reasons the Thunder have been able to have so much success as young and inexperienced as they are is because they buy into the boring. All the Presty-isms, all the Thunder jargon that Mark Dagenhart preaches, they buy into that. How many times have you heard get back to neutral or get back to zero? And that's a way of saying strip the emotion from the game. Learn from it, move on. And in that case, they bounced back with a 43-point win.
43.
Now, I will say this. Maybe a 43-point lead would be safe against the Pacers, but I don't know. We've yet to see a lead be safe against this Pacers team.
Yeah, I mean, I've sort of given up on trying to figure out what's going on with the Pacers because they have now had several games in the playoffs, so they haven't played well, where their stars haven't played well, and they've won anyway. And that was what happened in game one. And you look at the box score. There was no real superlative performance from anybody. They hit
their game plan against Tyrese Haliburton worked.
Their game plan in general worked. Yeah. And then they, I think, took their foot off the gas in the second half. The Pacers got a little comfortable.
Well, the Pacers protected the ball in the second half.
They did better. Right. I mean, I went back and watched game one this morning. And first of all, it was remarkable the number of turnovers the Pacers had where they just flung the ball in the air. Like Obi Toppin had 2 turnovers where he literally was on the baseline and threw the ball to the other baseline.
He just turned the ball over, I think, the first 3 times he touched it.
Yes. And then he hit 100 threes in the game.
Well, that was after Big Rich, who was sitting courtside, told Obi Toppin he was a 20% three-point shooter. Toppin quickly corrected him and said 40%, and then proceeded to boost that percentage for the rest of the game.
I think he went 5 of 6.
But listen, this to me was the story of the whole game. We talked about it a little bit. We've talked about the last couple of days. We haven't been on the pod since then. So the Thunder, what have you talked about all playoffs, McMahon? The points off turnovers, right?
Yeah, turnovers, and those turnovers fueling their offense. They were, first 3 rounds, forced almost 24 points per game, or created almost 24 points per game just off the turnovers.
So I watched the game in large part to chart these turnovers. I wanted to watch them and see what happened. So there were 14 live ball turnovers in the game, which means a steal or something happens in play and you can run the other way. On those 14 turnovers, the Thunder were 2 for 12 from the field.
Wow.
They made 2 free throws. Chet got fouled on 1 play, and they had 3 turnovers.
So was one of the 2 for 12 the Jalen Williams dunk?
Yes,
which is basically an outlet pass into a breakaway.
Correct.
So essentially 1 for 11.
So they were 1 for 11 on all 13 of the other steals in the game.
Yeah.
They also had 3 turnovers off of those 14 steals themselves, throwing the ball away.
That's crazy. More turnovers than buckets.
Yes.
When they're running off of a turnover.
In the whole game, off these 24 and off the 25 turnovers Indiana had, the Thunder were 4 for 22 from the field and had 5 turnovers.
Unheard of.
Like And a lot of them were just very poor. Like, they would get a wide open three. They would miss it.
Yeah.
Shea would get an open mid-range jumper. He would miss it. The A.J. Mitchell, in the couple minutes he was in the second quarter, he got a wide open three, got his own offensive rebound, missed a wide open 10-footer.
But what they weren't, aside from the J-Dub breakaway, were dunks and layups. And a lot of times, I mean, we've all seen, like, when the Thunder go on these runs, they're almost always fueled by turnovers. And it's J-Dub, it's Shea, it's, Caruso, Case Wallace. These guys getting to the bucket, finishing in transition. And I think there's certainly some outlier here in what you're talking about, but there's also some credit to the Pacers of saying, hey, we at least got to get back and protect the rim in transition. I promise you that was a huge point of emphasis for Rick Carlisle leading into the series. Now, so was protect the ball, and it took a half for that one to kick in.
Oh, my God. There was the one – they played it on the broadcast where Carlisle is in the huddle. I can't remember if it was the second quarter or the third quarter. But
second quarter.
And he's saying, guys, stop throwing the ball all over the place.
Right. Play with focus.
Yeah, he was like, bounce. You can't throw tight bounce passes. You can't throw tight passes against this team, which I'm sure he'd already said.
Sure.
He was reminding them. Not 11 seconds later, TJ McConnell comes out and tries a cross-court diagonal pass. Like, I mean, this is the kind of stuff that drives a coach crazy.
But it was unbelievable on the rewatch to just see how many missed opportunities Oklahoma City had. So if you're the Thunder, you're probably not going to get 25 turnovers again, but you certainly expect to convert more off of them. And the other thing we've talked about a ton during the playoffs is the combination of the two young guys behind Shea, who was also not great. He scored a lot of points, kind of did the Kobe system. Wasn't, I would say, a great performance
He did that,
from
by the
him.
way. So he was 14 of 30. He had a game in the last round against Minnesota where he was 13 of 30. His shot totals are going up. He's squeezing a little tight.
And I would say that was a C plus 38-point performance.
That's the thing. Like, I mentioned that to somebody.
Especially when you look in the last minute. Missed box out on the Siakam cut on the baseline for a layup. Drives in on Siakam, it gets blocked, and then misses
a mid-range that he would take 100
right,
times.
The clean midi that would have given him a 3-point lead.
Right. Just obviously 14 out of 30 is not an inefficient game, but it's not what you're
middling efficient.
It's not what you're looking for.
It's not inefficient, but it's not efficient
It's
either.
not how they play.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy who, when he's getting 38 points, usually it's on like 14 of 24,
right,
and 10 of 12 from the
he
line.
He did get to the line 8 times, which he's getting to the line 8 times. That's his average.
But then the other thing that we've talked about the whole playoffs is Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams, the two young co-stars who the reason teams don't tend to win in this situation is because young players late in the playoffs tend to struggle. And for the most part, the playoffs have been a struggle for those guys where they've had moments where they played really well, but there's also been a lot of moments where they struggled, Jalen in particular. In game one was a moment where both of them struggled, Chet more than Jalen.
Yeah.
And, if you're the Thunder, you would like to think that coming back in game two, both those guys will play better and should play better, and that will be a big part of them turning things around.
So where I'm going to push back is when you say most of the playoffs have been a struggle. For Jalen Williams, there was a 3-game awful shooting funk, the worst 3-game shooting funk of his career, when he was 10 of 43 over those 3. They actually managed to win 2 of them.
In the Denver series.
Those 3 games in the Denver series. Game 7, he showed up, 24 points, efficient in a blowout.
It was good in the Minnesota series.
Last series, he was great, and especially they got their butts handed to him. In Game 3, he came out in Game 4 and had the best playoff performance of his career with 34 points. And he's a guy, like, he is Pippen-esque in his ability to affect the game all over.
And did a good job on
all defense.
And he did a good job on
NBA.
Siakam in the game. Siakam
I
didn't
did
go
think
off.
that a couple of times he ended up with the ball in his hands on the wing, and he squeezed it a little bit.
Well, there was the one shot, like the shot he hit in Game 5 against Denver late in the fourth quarter, the shot that clinched the game. He had the same 3 in Game 4 against Minnesota, clinched the game. He got the same look. Shea kicks it out to him. He does a little ball fake to the corner. There's a couple minutes left in the game. I think the Thunder were up 3 or 4. Chance to go up 7. Missed it.
Yeah.
Like, that's the shot. In those other 2 games, he hits that shot. The Thunder win this game if he hits that shot.
And Dagenhall, I actually asked Dagenhall a question about Chet and his struggles in Game 1. And instead of addressing those specifically, he took more of a big picture view and included J-Dub in there. And kind of his money line was usually delivering in the finals is not in the curriculum for third-year players. The old Professor Dagenhall on us there. And his point was, it's a credit to them that they've thrust themselves into this situation, that they are huge factors in the Thunder being in this situation, and that it is expected of them because their performance has put the bar at that level. And I loved Jalen Williams when he was asked about it. I loved his his approach. He's like, I'm not really trying to think about it as I'm a third-year guy because I'm not trying to make excuses. And his money line was pressure is a privilege. Pressure is a well, he was asked about being a third-year guy.
Say this.
He was asked specifically.
All right.
Pressure is a privilege is what he said. Now let's see how they respond to there's obviously pressure coming into this, and now there's more pressure. They had game one stinkers. They're one play away from being able to win the game. Now, I will also point out, we can find examples of third-year players playing massive roles in the finals, and you can find one in Pascal Siakam. His finals debut for the Raptors, 32 points.
Okay.
Championship clincher that year, 26 and 10.
Saying he's a third-year player is an accurate statement. However, he is an all-NBA player and an all-star.
Who was a third-year player in the finals too? James Harden, 13 years ago.
Well, and that's not an example that the
wasn't
Oklahoma City folks want to hear.
I brought it up for a reason.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that once you become an all-NBA player and once you become an all-star and once you are going to say, please pay me the maximum contract
for sure.
in 6
Supermax
weeks.
escalator, please.
And listen, we're talking a lot about Jalen Williams. Jalen Williams was okay in the game. I wouldn't say he was
Didn't
great.
shoot it well.
Played well on Siakam defensively, though. But Chet Holmgren was bad.
Okay,
and that's to me the more thing
you mentioned Dagenhall. Let me just say something. Dagenhall was asked several times in the last few days about starting small, taking Isaiah Hartenstein out of the lineup, and then not playing Hartenstein and Holmgren together for 1 second in the game. His response has been the same. It was the same as it was today when you guys were at the press conference. It was, I change my lineup all the time during the regular season. Or at one point, he kept his cool, but at one point he was like, well, if you know our team.
Yeah.
I'm like, we know your team, sir. If you know our team, we're always changing lineups. He was basically,
which they are.
He was basically trying to defend himself. Now, that is true. He routinely changes his starting lineup. He routinely changes his second half lineup and takes Hartenstein out.
Hartenstein didn't start the second half 3 or 4 games of the conference finals, right?
That's true.
Yeah.
That's all true. However, when you start the exact same starting lineup for the first 3 rounds of the playoffs, and then you change your starting lineup to start the finals, you can give whatever statement you want, whatever defense you want. You are indicating to the other team that you are bending to them.
Yeah,
and
you're blinking first.
Yes.
Look, I'm going to defend Mark on this in part because I thought it would be a good idea to do this. I obviously didn't talk to him.
He brought it up,
but
so
we
he
did
thought
talk
it was a
about it
great
on the podcast. So I'm not going to say it was a bad idea. And also, they forced 20 turnovers in the first half and were dominating the game.
But I do think there is a little psychological thing there. It reminds me of when the We Believe Warriors as an 8 seed upset the 67-win Mavericks. And Avery in game 1 went with a different starting. I don't remember the exact change, but went with a different starting lineup than they'd had all season. But
I would just say that they were very clearly uncomfortable as a team.
Okay, but what I'm going to say.
Would you agree with that?
To Bontemps' point.
The Thunder were uncomfortable to start the game.
Nah.
I fundamentally disagree with
that.
They
had a double-digit lead.
I thought they played tight.
They had a double-digit lead for most of the first.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait a second. Yes, they're a young team playing in the finals for the first time. There's one guy on the team, Pascal Siakam, who Pascal's on the other team.
Yeah, Caruso.
Caruso won a championship the next year with the Lakers. There was not another guy on the court who played in the finals before. They look like a team that had a bunch of guys who were playing in the finals before. They also, again, forced 20 turnovers in the first half and were leading by double digits.
They started a different way than they started the whole playoff.
The start wasn't the problem. The finish was. Interesting, though, and we're huge Case and Wallace fans. We all agreed, this kid is a hell of a player, and he's going to be awesome.
Yes.
He's really good now. He's going to be awesome.
Yes.
It is interesting to put Case and Wallace in the starting lineup if you're going to make that change, and not the guy who's got a championship ring and is the veteran voice on this team.
But I like Caruso coming in.
So is he going to start game 2 with the old lineup or the new lineup?
I would start it the same way.
We'll find out 30 minutes before tip.
We'll find out 30 minutes before tip. And look,
right.
The way the Thunder went through the game, process-wise, I thought was good. The first half, they dominated the game. The reason they weren't up by 25 wasn't because they started small. It's because they botched 100 easy opportunities
because they
to score.
were uncomfortable.
Well, and look, one thing I can understand is Dagenhall watching that Pacers-Knicks series, the Eastern Conference Finals, and seeing just how badly the Knicks got smoked in transition playing two bigs. Do you want Chet guarding Siakam or Hartenstein? You want them running with him in transition? Like, they took away all the Siakam transition stuff that scorched
the Pacers. Wait a second. The Pacers didn't play well in the game. Tyrese Haliburton was a non-factor the vast majority of the game.
Disagree. The Pacers played very well. They played very well.
Second half, they played very
well.
The Pacers hit a bunch of threes in the second half.
That counts how you play well.
Again, I understand that. But the Thunder dominated the game. The idea that they were uncomfortable because of the lineup change when they forced 20 first-half turnovers and were leading by double digits is a crazy take.
The champions that we have who work for us at ESPN, who I've spent the last 2 days around, all thought it was a bad idea. Now, none of them play for the Thunder.
Sure. Everyone thought it was a bad idea.
One of them did.
Well,
everyone thought it was a bad idea.
Right now. They don't play for the Thunder right now.
Everyone thought it was a bad idea in hindsight because the Pacers lost the game. Or Pacers won the game. If the Thunder had won the game, if they converted on their turnovers like they always do.
Isn't that how it always works? If it doesn't work in hindsight, it doesn't work.
Can I ask something? How the hell have we been yabbering for this long and not gotten into Tyrese Haliburton with one of the cojones factor moments of this generation?
Are you sure you don't want to do cojones factor for the playoffs? I mean, why did you?
I'll do it, and he's going to win it. Obviously, this is like
he's already won it.
This guy, this is one of the best individual clutch runs and team clutch runs, but specifically individual clutch runs in the history of the league. 4 game winning or game tying buckets in the last 5 seconds in a playoff run. It would be 4.
Not just that. He's 4 for 4. 4 for 4. Not 4
makes.
Like, and nobody has ever made more than 2 in the playoffs in the last 30 years, and he's 4 for 4.
And like these aren't easy, aside from the blow by and Giannis for the layup, these aren't easy shots.
They've all been sort of different shots.
Well, this one was a 21-foot pull-up going right, and Kaysen Wallace was on him. It was a tough shot. I'm sure Kaysen looked at that and said, I could have been on him tighter.
In a one-point game,
the drive.
In a one-point game, he didn't give up a foul. He couldn't have guarded him any better. It's a hell of a shot.
But I'm sure Lou Dort looked at him and was like, "Damn, I wish I was on him." Caruso probably had similar thoughts.
You watch the play. It's not really clear what the call is there. Dort could have taken him. Dort was guarding Obi Toppin. If you remember, Aaron Nesmith got the rebound, which, by the way, it was a man's rebound. Aaron Nesmith had 12 rebounds in the game. Part of it was because the Thunder were playing small.
Yeah.
But Aaron Nesmith went in Haliburton had 10.
Part of it, as Rick Carlisle said, is we were giving the ball away so much that it was there weren't a lot of opportunities for the Thunder to get rebounds. And again,
but that was
they were 4 for 22 on those turnovers. That's a lot of the extra shots.
So Shea misses the open mid-range shot. Nesmith gets a man's rebound.
Yep.
He throws the ball to Toppin. I don't know why he threw the ball to Toppin, but he threw the ball to Toppin. Toppin waits for Tyrese to get up. In that moment, Dort could have moved on to Tyrese, but he didn't. Dort ends up guarding Toppin. And you've got Kaysen on, and they get good floor balance because they put Siakam on the same side as Haliburton. Caruso is on Siakam. Tyrese makes his move to the right. Yes, Caruso could have doubled, but if Caruso doubles,
would have given up a dunk to Siakam.
It's a dunk to Siakam. Nice there's not enough time to rotate down. So the Pacers, without getting a timeout, got the matchups they wanted. No Dort on Haliburton. Got floor balance. Got to their spot. You got to give them credit for handling their business.
Yeah, I mean that's what the Pacers do. The scariest sight in the league right now is Tyrese Haliburton in a one possession game as the final seconds are ticking down.
You know what though? When I watched it in real time, I thought, wow, that was an amazing shot. But when you watch it back, he got beautifully squared up. He got a beautiful squared up, perfect look.
No, and look, I wouldn't even say they got the matchup they wanted, really, because Kaysen Wallace is an outstanding.
Well, you don't want Dort.
I don't think it's honestly much of a difference with either of those guys. Tyrese Haliburton, though, took advantage of the fact that it was a one-point game.
Yeah.
You had to manage all these other guys. Again, like Siakam made a great cut to draw Caruso away. And look, he stopped on a dime and he squared himself up, but it was a super difficult shot to get himself squared up that way. And look, I mean, his ability to not really be very impactful in the game, which he just was not. And a lot of that was
They
the Thunder.
took the ball out of his hands in the fourth
Well,
quarter.
but he also was okay with that. Like he was a bystander for large chunks of the game. But he has an unbelievable ability that despite not really being that involved, when it gets down to it in that spot, he has absolute confidence he's going to make the play every time, no matter whether he's gone 1 for 15 or he's gone 15 for 18. It's a remarkable thing.
As a team, they have absolute confidence. If they are within anything that can remotely be considered striking distance, as Haliburton said, they're confident they're going to be able to walk a team down. And they've done it over and over and over again. And all the like ESPN's research department, Stats Williams and the boys,
I know
how many 1 in 1,144s type of stats have they had with some of these comebacks?
We ran these on NBA Today on Friday. We ran the 4 charts of the 4 games where they made the comebacks, and it shows the percentage chance of winning. And it's very busy. I don't know if we should have put it on TV, but all you needed to see was the straight line that went straight down and up right at the end of those charts. It was
it's amazing.
It was crazy. It doesn't compute. The Pacers win a game where Haliburton doesn't really play that well.
Nobody played that well.
Haliburton, so they are...
Obi Toppin hit a bunch of shots. Other than that, there were no...
I'll tell you what, man.
Who did well.
They did fine, but there was no 25 or 30-point game.
They shot 50% in the second half. They scored 66 points in the second half on the road against the Thunder.
And they were 10 of 20 from three-point range in the second half.
They got up 16.
But it was a couple from a lot of guys. It wasn't like game 1 when Aaron Nesmith went for 7 threes.
I think they went 10 of 16 on corner threes. So they generated the corner threes. They made the corner threes.
Yeah.
They did more than... I understand the point you're making.
My point is, in game 2 in New York, right, Pascal went for 39.
Yeah.
Right? There wasn't a game like that where you're like, that guy blew the doors off.
It wasn't like game 4 where Haliburton went for 35.
They had a lot of guys get comfortable and make shots. But
I would say among the key rotation players for the Thunder, only one had a plus offensive game by their standards. Lou Dort's the only one who I would say by his standards had a better than average game.
I agree.
And Lou Dort's probably not going 5 for 7 or 5 for 8 from 3 the next game.
Yeah, Shea had a meh 38-point game. Jalen Williams didn't shoot it well. Chet stunk up the joint. And we can go on down the list. But after 47 minutes and 45 seconds, this game came down to the 2 faces of the franchise, the 2 superstars in this series, both getting looks. Shea missed what, frankly, was an easier look. A look that he's going to hit that
55% of the time.
Easily.
Yeah.
Tyrese is going to hit that tougher look 100% of the time, apparently, as long as the game's on the line, because that's all he's done all season long.
So Carlisle had a timeout left. I wonder if Carlisle had...
I love Carlisle. This is something, Rick taught me this when he was with the Mavericks.
Yep.
Just the value of, look, if you can get the ball to your guy, you've got a guy, Jason
but if
Kidd.
you're down 3, you're down 1. That's 2 different situations.
Oh, yeah, you're saying if they're down 3.
If Shea hits that shot,
I still think
I think you would still save it then to give yourself the out for the fouling game.
And one thing that might be different then, also, the value of not calling a timeout is you don't want to give the Thunder the chance to get their defense set.
Right. Well,
and
I was going to say, just said foul.
I was going to say after a bucket, they can get their defense set, but the Knicks obviously never figured that part out.
Well, and look, but that's what's so interesting about the game is obviously we talked a bunch about the Thunder. There's a lot of things you point to say the Thunder are going to play better, and if you look at the Pacers, it's sort of the same thing. Like if the Pacers walk out of that game, nobody played very well. Yes, they hit shots in the second half, but they obviously flung the ball over the gym in the first half, and they have things they can take away from the game, but it's not like you go into game 2 if you're the Pacers thinking, man, we stole one, we didn't play well on the road.
By the way, does Andrew Nembhard ever miss a clutch shot? How about that step back where it was like 4 or 5 moves off the dribble,
29% in the regular season and almost 50% in the playoffs.
After guarding Shea all night long.
I'm calling him playoff Nembhard.
I'm telling you what.
Also, you know what?
A winner.
Another guy who's fearless. That's the word for the Pacers. They are a fearless team.
Also, he got Shea a little bit ruffled. Now, I just wrote this story about how Shea weaponizes his calm, weaponizes even keel. He does this whole thing, but consistency is everything I do. Getting back to 0 or neutral, whatever.
Yeah, they either or. They're interchangeable.
Nembhard got Shea irritated.
Well, they've been going at each other since they were like 8, 9
I
years
know,
old.
I know. Well,
But yeah, there was.
And
Shea threw the first. He had the first little shove.
That's what I'm saying. Shea did it first.
Hey,
is that a secret weapon? The Canadian
dude, no, it's not even Canadian. It's Nimhard. He did it to Brunson. Brunson ain't Canadian. Brunson headbutted him. Remember?
Oh my God, that was
Nimhard is a hell of a player.
Talk about foul merchant
and a hell of an irritant.
Foul merchant. What? By the way, when you take
free throw merchant. You can't say that in OKC.
I guess not. But what if you take another player's hand and you slap it in the head?
You'll be in that canal if you say free throw merchant.
I was talking about Brunson.
That's some green water too. I don't know if you want. I don't know. There's
wouldn't be very fun
in that thing.
You probably almost tipped into that thing a few times about 2 a.m.
Listen, I'm smooth and effortless. Just right on up those stairs and off we go.
Yeah, that's right. At about 10 o'clock at night, right? That's when you head back.
I've got an 8:30 curfew.
Okay. A.M. All right. Okay, that's it. We'll have more about Game 2. There's other stuff happening in the NBA right now. I don't know if you guys heard, but the New York Knicks are looking for a coach.
I have heard.
You talked about it the other day. You got a little viral response to your comments about Jason Kidd.
Did I?
You did.
I'm trying to stay out of the mentions. I'm pulling a Wendy. There's a certain segment of the sporting population that's been questioning my toughness. I'll just let you know. Look at this finger. I played pickup last night with a dislocated finger. That's how tough I am.
How'd you do?
I stunk. It was a C+ performance by my standards. My standards just aren't very high.
All right. So you mentioned the other day that you didn't think that the Kidd stuff. How did you say that?
I said I would not dismiss that possibility, and certainly it is yet to be dismissed.
Mark Stein, I believe. What did he exactly report?
Stein reported that the Knicks are expected to request permission. Shams and I reported that I think the phrasing was they're doing active due diligence on J. Kidd as well as some other candidates.
Good phrasing.
But this thing is definitely trending toward.
Can I just stop for a second?
Mm-hmm.
Jason Kidd has another job.
Yeah.
And stopped Jason Kidd in the past.
He has an extension that was signed during the Mavs run to the 2024 finals. There's 2 years left on that extension. I want to be careful here because I've gotten Bontemps and we've been digging around. We've gotten conflicting information. I would say
let's just leave it where it was the other day.
Okay.
Let's not dismiss the possibility.
What I'm going to say is this. The Mavericks obviously do not have to grant permission.
Of course.
And I would say there is at least some internal discussion about why would we do that.
Can I just point something out that, independent of you two, did the Knicks not sue another NBA team for hiring away a person on
the J. Kidd can't take the floppy disk to New York.
That's not why they sued them.
Can J. Kidd take his own playbook, or is that confidential information?
I'm just saying, this is.
I'm not trying to defend the Knicks, but I'm just saying they didn't sue the guy for getting hired by another team.
They said they took confidential information, whatever. But here's my thing. How sloppy is this process by the Knicks? You're leaking that it's getting leaked that you're going to try to go after another team's coach who's under contract. And if not him, the other names that have been leaked so far are also other teams' coaches who are under contract. You fired a coach who just went to the Eastern Conference Finals with no firm plan in place other than a bunch of, maybe their franchises will grant us permission for some reason.
Well, this gets back to what we talked about the other day, and the bar to clear for this to be a success as a move. You can't just hire anybody.
Listen,
that's the problem.
If I'm Joe Smith and I have a head coaching job with multiple years left on my contract, and I'm doing just fine, and you come to me and say, I would like to hire you away. Okay, it is going to take a gigantic number.
Yeah. I think
number.
We're talking at least 12 a year. At least 12 a year. And, the other thing is this. Look, if you are Jason Kidd is not going to ask for the Mavericks to give him permission to go interview for another job. If they're asking for that, there's either a guarantee an offer's coming or there's not.
Right.
This ain't you're not going to get coaches under contract with other teams. And, look, the Mavericks season this year was a disaster.
It's not to have a chat.
But a team that's
a
year away from the finals, that's
Coach,
getting the
what's your
number one overall
philosophy on
pick.
fouling down up by 3?
This ain't an interview. You're asking for permission to hire the guy.
That's right.
So we'll see.
What's your vision for training camp? Your training camp schedule? You don't think that's
we were in Charleston last year. Where do you think would be a better destination? Do you have any resorts that you like, J Kids? Oh, let me tell you, I got some golf courses here, and there.
Okay, but what do you think about the idea of wanting to leave the Mavericks right now?
So that's the thing. I don't think Jason Kidd is looking to leave the Mavericks. That doesn't mean that he would not be interested in the Knicks job. But I'm getting into semantics here. But
the Knicks job is a better job, and he would get more years and more dollars.
Right.
There's the interest.
I don't think this is a case of Jay Kidd wants to get the hell out of Dallas, especially, honestly, with Cooper Flagg coming in.
That's what I'm talking about. That's the undercurrent. Is no one excited about Cooper Flagg?
Now, listen, I don't want to put odds on anything here, but certainly one very feasible scenario here is J. Kidd ends up with a restructured extended extension.
I love an extended. It's one of my favorite things is extending extensions.
I've never gotten one.
I'd like to get one. It'd be fun. So, all right. So let's say they don't get Jason Kidd. Now they've got egg all over their face because they fire a guy who's one of the most successful coaches in 20 years, and then they don't get their top choice.
Well, and if you don't get Jason Kidd, why? Okay, Chris Finch is a name that's been thrown out there. Why? I'm Tim Connolly. Why the hell would I let Chris Finch go work for you? We like him here, and we've been in the West Finals the last 2 years. We don't want to get rid of a coach who's going to the West or to a conference finals. Thank you.
Well, first off, Tim Connolly has got to get his own self under contract. At his exit press conference, he said, "I'll be sticking around," but I have not seen an announcement, nor have I been told that it's done. So let's just keep that in mind for number one. And do keep in mind that Chris Finch was hired in Minnesota at the middle of the season by Gerson Rosas, who is Leon Rose's one of his topless lieutenants. So
if you're the Knicks, I don't even know if I would necessarily agree about the egg on your face part. If they don't, let's say the Mavs don't express permission or grant permission for Jason Kidd. Because look, if you are the Knicks, if you're going to be trying to get the best coaches, go try. If you can't get them, you can go try to get somebody else. If you're, because to me,
it looks bad if you fire a successful coach.
Well, look,
and then you can't get the coaches you want.
Listen,
you whiff a couple times.
I'm not saying any of it looks good, but it's different than getting turned down.
And I think if Leon Rose would ever utter a public word, he would attempt to say, "Hey, we weren't just honed in on one guy. We're doing due diligence on multiple." Right. But
cool.
certainly, one name is bubbled to the forefront here for a reason.
The result is what's going to matter. If they go through 10 rounds of interviews and they hire whoever they hire Joe
That's
Smith.
That's true on any coaching.
Well, but I understand. But right now, however messy it looks or gets, what's going to matter is what happens a year from now, and if the Knicks are playing in the finals. If the Knicks are playing in the finals with whatever the new coaches they hire, it'll look good.
Pretty
if
high
they lose
bar.
it, but that's the situation they've set up. And if they lose in the first or second round with the new coach, it's going to look bad. If they hire Jason Kidd and they lose in the first round, it's going to look bad.
Speaking of new coaches, on Monday, Jordan Ott will be officially introduced as the head coach of the Phoenix Suns. First-time head coach, came away from the Cavaliers. Has been highly regarded assistant.
Ever since his days as a Michigan State video coordinator.
That's correct. Kenny Atkinson was his first hire when he got the job as the Cavs head coach, hired him. But I think more interesting, the first place I saw this, and I don't know if the first place I saw it was Gerald Bourget from All City Sports. Yeah. If somebody else had it first, I apologize.
I believe Gerald had it first.
Gerald, Congratulations on your new arrival. He and Bontemp's new fathers.
Yeah.
You guys can compare.
Was it a double date? Oh, go on.
No, it was not.
Anyway, Gerald got a internal memo that Matt Ishbia sent to Suns employees where he apologized for his behavior as an owner the last couple of years, saying that he was not involved enough and that he made the classic new owner mistake. If he'd have stopped there, that'd have been good.
The classic new owner mistake. We agree with that part.
Yeah.
The not involved enough? What, like, brother?
Yeah, he said that he made the mistake of just hiring people and paying them to make the decisions.
Which is
and
insane.
now he's going to be more involved.
Like, come on, man. Like, we all enjoy Matt Ishbia. We all appreciate his passion, his desire
I like
to
him
win.
as a guy.
We just really, I'll speak for myself. I just really believe his approach as an owner has been completely misguided and counterproductive, especially under the new CBA. And I'm sorry, his fingerprints were all over the Kevin Durant deal. His
literally the
fingerprints were
first
all
day
over
6
the
hours.
Bradley Beal deal. He's the one who his push was stars. Forget fit, forget the
Listen,
financial and the
I'll go
cap
even a step
picture.
further. They were going to trade Kevin Durant, and they were very close to, or they were very much trying to trade Kevin Durant at the All-Star or at the trade deadline. And Durant said, "No, I don't want to get traded. I don't want to do this." And that was Ishbia with that too.
Yeah.
I don't think James Jones would have traded for Kevin Durant in that particular deal. Maybe he would trade it for Durant, but not for that deal. I don't think James Jones would have done the Bradley Beal deal the way he did, and I don't think James Jones would have tried to trade Kevin Durant without involving him in the process.
And look, the hiring of Brian Greger, who might end up being a fantastic general manager, but this is a classic.
By the way, I didn't think Brad Stevens was a slam dunk to be a great executive.
No,
I thought Brad Stevens was a great coach. He's turned into a great executive. So I'm not saying Brian Gregory can't be a great
But what
executive.
is Brian Gregory's primary qualification to be the Phoenix Suns general manager?
His relationship with Matt Ishbia.
He was
dating,
an assistant coach at Michigan State when Ishbia was a walk-on. He has 11, I guess maybe it's a full year now, of experience in the NBA. None as a decision maker.
He has sort of been around the team for 2 years, I believe.
Okay.
But he's only been in a full-time member of the front office for 1 year.
But that hiring was a clear signal that what Ishbia is telling you is the truth. Ishbia feels like he didn't have enough of an impact on things. And I would say, boy, oh boy,
So
I don't think
is-
that's the message that Suns fans are going to be comforted by.
So what it comes down to is this. They're going to try to make a Durant trade probably between now and the draft. What it sounds to me like is that Matt Ishbia will be executing that trade. Now, maybe he was going to do it anyway, but that's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah.
It's the worst situation in the history of the NBA. And
Oh my God. He just comes off the top on that one.
it's not the first time I've said it.
I know.
It's the worst situation in the history of the NBA. And none of this is a sign that it's getting any better anytime
Just to clarify that, the worst situation, like from a front office management
from a
standpoint.
franchise, where the franchise sits right now. They have
And
no
so-
control over their drafts for the next several years. They're in cap
Yeah.
hell. They have Bradley Beal, who they cannot trade because he has a no-trade clause. They have no draft picks to improve the team.
And
they have an aging Kevin Durant,
Yeah.
who they now have annoyed with the way they handled things in the spring.
And who only has 1 year left on his contract, so he's going to have a lot of say on where he goes or where
Correct.
he doesn't,
And
which deflates
decreases
his value.
There's just there is not a path out of this anytime soon that, in my opinion, that doesn't involve a lot of pain.
Right.
And
so with this bad situation, whether you want to call it the worst of all time, with this
Correct.
bad situation, they hire an inexperienced general manager. They hire an inexperienced head coach. He's an experienced coach, inexperienced head
Correct.
coach. And the owner says, "I got it, boys."
And the owner, the inexperienced owner,
Now he's experienced.
no, he's not. Well, he's got a little bit of experience. It ain't good.
You just look at where the team was when he took it over 2.5 years ago, and you could say that they were going to be an okay playoff team and not a great playoff team. But you look at where that team was a couple of years ago, where they had a core of young players, and they made the finals recently.
Which they built through the draft.
Right, and they were in that situation, and you look at where they are now with a roster mostly devoid of young talent, with no draft picks going forward, with no cap flexibility going forward, and with a Western Conference, as you have pointed out many times, that is absolutely loaded. And as you sit here right now, the Suns were not one of the 10 best teams in the West last year. They're probably not going to be, in my opinion, going into the season higher than 12th or 13th in terms of where, not 13th, but probably
we'll
12th.
see what their Durant trade looks like, but they're certainly not going from 12th to 6th.
They're not
with that trade.
They shouldn't be. They will very likely be projected to be out of the top 10 in the West at
as
the
a
start
second
of
apron
this.
team.
As a,
But can I just say, in general, if you're a second apron team and you are not a title contender, even if you want to loosen up the definition of title contender, that is literally an unacceptable position.
No.
it's unacceptable and,
Which is-
untenable.
Which is why the Celtics without Jason Tatum for most, if not all of next year, are probably going to take themselves out of the second apron.
Right. Now,
because you have to.
Worst situation, I don't want to go that strong. Worst bang for the buck in NBA history, no question about that. And
that's a no-brainer.
Like, what's the path out of this? What's the path out of this?
Okay, so how do you eat an elephant? You eat an elephant one bite at a time. You have to work your way out of it by one step at a time, getting your way out of it, trying to acquire assets, trying to define development. Basically the exact opposite of what they were doing for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
So the trade for Durant has to be a trade that is better for the next 3 to 5 years, even if it doesn't help them immediately this year.
Well, watching the Phoenix Suns is about as fun as eating an elephant, about as pleasant.
Well, that's
what do you think an elephant tastes like?
Well, I'm just saying,
Chicken?
like, if you look at where the Nets were,
What do you think?
it's somewhat comparable to the Nets, where they were after the complete collapse of the
KG
Garnett.
Pierce. Yeah.
Look what they did. They had to go down to nothing. They didn't have control of their draft picks. They had to go down to nothing and slowly build back up. And how long did it take?
While putting the foundation in place for the Celtics to go win a championship.
Yes, they had to sit there and watch. They had to do that because there was no other way to it.
Well, the Nets also had other paths they could have gone down. They chose actively to go the way they did, which you could argue that was the way they should have gone. They could have also just tried to be competitive in the short term and sign short-term players that had value, which they didn't really do. But the Suns can't even do that. Like, the Suns are locked into this team that doesn't have any flexibility, that isn't good enough. And look, let's just talk about the elephant in the room. Devin Booker is the one. Devin Booker is the one long-term valuable asset they have.
And they're not willing to consider trading him, and he doesn't want to be traded.
Right. He's about to sign, I assume, a 2-year, $150 million extension, which is probably one of the reasons why he was willing to be so involved in the coaching search, because he was like, "Yeah, I'm going to be a good teammate. I'll be in." Because, by the way, it's not necessarily good policy to it wasn't public, but it's not necessarily good policy to have your franchise player have to stamp a coach, because now that can be put on the coach's head. And by the way, they delivered him 5 first-time head coaching candidates. They were like, Devin, here's our 5 finalists. They've all never been head coaches before. Pick one and marry yourself to.
And Devin Booker,
that's tough.
To 100% Devin Booker's credit, he has made it very clear that he wants to be a Sun for his career. He wants to be a one-team player. He wants to make it work there. I find that very admirable, honestly.
10 toes down.
It is a cool thing. However, I cannot sit here and look at this situation and see any way where he's going to be on a relevant team in Phoenix in the next 4 or 5 years.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, it is admirable. I also think it would be and Devin Booker's not asked for my advice, whatever. I think it would be in his best interest and the franchise's best interest for them to put him on the block.
Well, first he's going to get his $150 million.
That's
what's going to happen first.
Yes,
right.
And he better get that $150 million, because the way they have put him in this position is, in my view, unfair. It's unfair to him to have to ratify a coaching hire where there's 5 guys who've never been a head coach before.
Well, and it's unfair of him to have to play for a 4th head coach in 4 seasons because
7th
the owners
coach.
fired the last 3.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing. In 2.5 years, they're on their 4th coach.
He better be getting that 150. He better be getting that 150, and then we'll see what happens after that.
Who gives a damn about the salary cap? Not the Phoenix
Certainly
Suns.
not the Suns. All right. Are you looking to go to enjoy the tipsy tiki here?
I always enjoy the tipsy tiki.
Okay. All right. All right. Well,
Wow, you looking to get into something here?
Am I looking to get into something?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm looking to go get a steak.
Okay, well, there's other places I can recommend. We'll see you. We got a reservation at 8:45. If you'd like, you're doing movie night.
Yeah, it's movie night tonight. You guys said no, can't be bothered. That's okay. I'll go by myself. I don't care.
We're not
I'm not
good
afraid
teammates.
to go to a movie by myself.
We're not good teammates.
I'm not care. Yeah, that's right. All right. Thank you to Tipsy Tiki and Big Rich for hosting us. Thank you to Blair and Rafa.
Hey, thank you to Matt Stowe as well, the brains behind the operation, co-owner here.
That's the guy who takes care of you at night, because Big Rich is.
When Big Rich is, recovering, yes.
Did you recover here? You recovered here last night for your pickup game. You needed
I did, yes.
Different type of recovery.
I eased some pain.
Thank you to Rafa and to Blair, who are behind the cameras. Thank you to Bontemps McMahon. Thank you for watching and listening to the Hoop Collective. be talking to you after Game 2 with our man, our finals correspondent, Iman Shumpert, who I thought did a really good job coming in.
I thought he carried that podcast.
I wouldn't argue that. 2016 NBA champ. I don't know if you guys heard. All right, we'll talk to you soon.
Adios, amigos.